So today we're at the Benedictine monastery called Maria de la Soledad, out near Totonilco. Benedictine means they follow the rules of St. Benedict, where all you do is work and pray. It must be really tough to follow those rules because twice his own followers tried to kill him. Maria de la Soledad, or Mary All Alone. If you ever met a woman named Marisol, that's her full name, Maria de la Soledad. And her special day is the Saturday before Easter, because on Good Friday, Jesus died. Easter Sunday, he comes back. But that Saturday, she's all alone in this world. If you go in the chapel in the oratorio on Plaza Civica in San Miguel, the Saturday before Easter, you're going to find it filled with women dressed in black, keeping this version of Mary company in her mourning. And when the sun starts to set, despite wearing the highest heels in town, they'll pick up this heavy image of Mary and have a procession around town. It's very moving. Let's come on into the main chapel. So this land was donated in the early 90s to the Benedictine order, and that's when they built this facility. So it's really a fairly modern monastery. The first person we run into here is Expedus, and you can tell by his costume, he's a centurion. And one day he decided he's going to become Catholic. So the devil sends him a black robe with the message in Latin to wait, do it tomorrow. And instead he holds the cross with Hodie, which is Latin for do it today. He becomes the patron saint for getting things done quickly. He's very popular here in the countryside when you're looking for work or maybe have a legal issue. And Saint Expedus is where we get the word expedite from, in order to get things done fast. Over here with the book in print is Teresa. Teresa was a prolific writer. And what she liked to write about more than anything in the world was being one with God. She gets so caught up in this notion of being one with God, there were times she would physically levitate and have orgasms. These became known as her ecstasies. If you ride two of the city buses and go from Central, let's say, up to the mall area of town, and you look on the ceiling of the bus, there's a life-size image of a nun with an odd look on her face. That's Teresa in one of her ecstasies. A couple of years ago on Christmas Eve, I had a priest from Dublin on the tour, so I was going to skip that story. I didn't want him to think I was being vulgar. Of course, I told him when I was done, he was quiet for a moment, and then he went, well, St. Teresa would like to ride the buses here in San Miguel because the roads are so bumpy. Let's come over to the main altar. The gentleman all in black is, of course, St. Benedict. And whenever you see Benedict near a woman, like the lady that's to his left on the other side of the altar, that's his sister, Scholastica. She was known for being very smart and doing well in school. And that's where we get the word scholastic from people that do well in school. Let's bring it over to the side here and look at the tabernacle. Tabernacle is where you keep the communion wafer. And what makes this one unique is actually a model of the building we're in. So it's like a dollhouse within a dollhouse. Let's come on out and I'm going to lead you down to the area where the monks live. So this one,
Okay.
all right. So now we're in front of the smaller chapel used specifically for the monks. Down the hill here, you can see the little houses they live in. If you like, you can make arrangements and you can stay here for a couple weeks or a couple months and try out the cloistered lifestyle, see if it's for you. In the distance, wherever you see clumps of trees, that lets you know that there's a hot spring there because they need that water to be able to grow. And sort of in the distance, you see a field. And then closest to us, it's the banks of the Laja River. And come mid-October, or at the end of the rainy season, those fields will flood, and when the water recedes, up come all the wild marigolds. I don't know if you ever smelled a marigold, but they have an odd smell. That weird smell is what the indigenous believe brought the dead back that time of year, at the end of October, early November. And how they came back from the dead were on the wings of monarch butterflies. That's why you see so many marigolds in the Day of the Dead celebrations. Also, the indigenous felt that every one of those orange flowers had 365 petals, one for every day in the year of a good life. The Spanish come, they conquered the indigenous, and they're like, no, you guys, you're confused. That gold color in the marigold represents Golden Mary's dowry when she married St. Joseph. And that's why in English we call them marigolds. In the distance over here, in between the two tree lines, you can sort of see a little brick building. That's actually an oven used to make bricks. So people that live in this area, they'll gather the mud from the Laja River, mix it up with cow dung and straw, bake it in the oven, and that's how we get the bricks here in town. Right behind us here, these steps for the Monk's Chapel. A lot of times on tours, I'll have people that they like to pose on these steps because it makes them feel like they're in the cover of a 1970s album. Whenever I bring tours out, I always ask at the end, now that you've been here and you've seen a little bit of the monastery lifestyle, could you do it? And I've gotten some interesting answers over the years. More often than not, most people just simply say no. One day I had a woman on the tour who was probably in her mid-50s with her husband who was probably in his mid-70s. And she said how she had spent her life traveling externally, she'd like to use the rest of it to travel internally. And I thought it was such an interesting answer, particularly since her husband was in the car. Obviously he couldn't travel internally with her, but he seemed to be okay with that. Another time Tony and I had two young women, probably about 25, they were twins. And the one was a painter. And she said, I'm fine with all of it as long as I can keep painting. My answer was, well, as long as your paintings support the community, every community has to be able to support itself, I'm sure they'd be fine with that. And their sister said, well, I'm not Catholic, so I don't want to go to Mass. Can I use that time to meditate in the field? And I was like, I'm pretty sure being Catholic is part of the deal being in the monastery.